Is the royal family facing its worst crisis in 100 years? Are the royals plotting to throw Prince Andrew under the bus? Could he actually be facing time in jail? And what's behind the report that Prince William put pressure on Beatrice and Eugenie? With Andrew Lownie in the studio, we have a fascinating show coming up for you. Hello, I'm Jo Elvin and this is Palace Confidential. Of course, as I mentioned, here today is royal biographer Andrew Lownie, whose recent best-selling book entitled has reignited the debate around Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. Welcome to you, Andrew.
Good morning.
And now, this is quickly your weekly reminder that if you don't already, please subscribe to our channel. We're getting so very close now to 500,000 subscribers, and we would love your help to get there. So if you don't already, please do press that subscribe button. It's free, and you'll never miss another of our great royal videos. Speaking of great free ways to keep in touch, why not subscribe to the weekly Palace Confidential newsletter? It is too packed full of royal insight from our brilliant experts, and it is so easy to sign up. Just scan the QR code on screen now or click the link in the description below. Okay, so once again, we have so much to discuss, so let's get to it. And King Charles is back in the UK after what many will see as a successful visit to Rome, where he prayed with Pope Leo. But from the highs of the Vatican came a low at Lichfield Cathedral, where he was heckled by a man asking how long he'd known about Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein and whether there was a police cover-up and so on. Oh my goodness.
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew?
Now, Andrew, this won't have been the King's first heckler, but this one would have stung, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, the fact is that this story is getting much, much bigger. It's not just about Andrew now, it's about accountability and inherited privilege for the whole royal family. And I think they need to get ahead of the story. They're always playing catch-up. But, I mean, clearly the royal family did know. I mean, there was an attempt to suppress the story years before it broke.
Yes, when, I mean, during the Queen's reign, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. So with ABC Television, Amy Robach wanted to do an investigation. They had the story. They took it to the palace, and the palace threatened them with not having access to the Prince and Princess of Wales or any other member of the royal family if they'd ran it, and they pulled the story. So, I mean, the royal family clearly did know the story, and they've had years in which to deal with the Andrew problem, and they seem to have shelved it.
And I think the public anger about that is really growing now, isn't it?
It is. I've never seen sort of public outrage like this. I think it's the worst crisis for the royal family in 100 years.
Gosh. Well, you've spent a lot of time trying to get into the head of Prince Andrew around this saga. Do you think the fact that now people are sort of like openly heckling the King would have caused Andrew any upset, or does that kind of thing not penetrate?
Well, you would think he would be upset at the dishonour he's brought on his own close family, the wider royal family, and indeed on the country. But he doesn't. I don't think he does. He's still battling it out there to stay in Royal Lodge. He still has a strong sense of entitlement. I almost call the book shameless, and that's sort of what he is.
It's just crazy, isn't it, to think that there never seems to be, you know, as we always say, Prince Andrew has always strongly denied any allegations that he had any sexual activity with Virginia Giuffre. But he still seems to have no contrition about his association with Epstein. No,
I think the extraordinary thing is, and with plenty of opportunities for him to apologise, not least in the Friday statement 10 days ago, he's never said a thing. I mean, clearly in Newsnight, that was one of the criticisms, that he showed no empathy towards the victims. We've had Virginia Giuffre's own very powerful and personal account published this week, which really brings home the sort of seediness of the whole episode. And I mean, the extraordinary thing is the royal family don't seem to be distancing themselves, I think, sufficiently from Andrew, who is, you know, very toxic to the brand.
Well, we'll get onto that in a minute, but I want to turn to a curious story that never was really. And last week, just as last week's episode of Palace Confidential was going online, there were TV crews and journalists rushed to Windsor after reports that there would be, quote unquote, passing traffic outside Royal Lodge. And in the end, nothing happened. But it did leave people speculating as to whether or not Andrew wanted to speak, make a statement, make a point. We don't know what precipitated this or who, but do you think Andrew would be keen to speak out about this publicly?
Well, Andrew's never, and indeed Sarah Ferguson, have never commented on all the accusations that have been levelled at them, both with Epstein and on other matters.
Well, not in recent. I mean, they've commented before to lie about cutting contact with him, but they haven't commented in recent times, have they?
Well, they're not commented in recent times, but actually even when things were brought to them in the past, particularly, for example, unexplained payments to them that came up in High Court cases, they refused to comment or clear up any questions there. But it is a very strange episode. I mean, all the troops got marched to the top of the hill and had to be marched down again. And, you know, I wouldn't have thought King Charles wants to be associated with Andrew, and I can't see Andrew wanting to give a statement. So I don't know what that was about, but all it does is gives the impression of chaos in terms of the comms at Buckingham Palace.
Do you think there was an idea that perhaps King Charles was travelling to Royal Lodge to speak to Andrew? Could that have been the thing?
Well, that's one of the theories, but
Yeah.
I say it doesn't make sense. I would have thought the royal family wanted to distance themselves from Andrew. It was the whole point about the Duchess of Kent's funeral, which I think is a pivotal point in the change of public attitudes towards him.
Yeah.
Here he was trying to cozy up to the royals, thinking that one big happy family, and it was very clear that they weren't.
I don't know, I can imagine someone in the palace thinking it's a good photo opportunity for King Charles to go to Royal Lodge and just, you know, a bit.
Well, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where they get their reputation management people, but perhaps they should be looking at re-employing them.
I know. Well, there's a story that our very own Richard Eden wrote a while back that has re-emerged, that friends of Andrew speaking to the Telegraph saying that he believes the King wants Andrew out of Royal Lodge so he can keep it for Camilla later on. But Andrew's not going down without a fight, is he?
No, he is an aunt-lad lease. He's going to go down only with the stick or the carrot. And it's difficult to know what the stick is. Mainly it's pressure on him through his daughters. I mean, their future role in the royal family, perhaps even where the princess titles will be taken away. The carrot is to pay him lots of money, but at the moment he has a very attractive lease. The payback is $558,000, which is nothing on a property which he can have till 2078. So he doesn't need to go anywhere. I mean, it's up to Charles to come up with something. If Andrew was the honourable man that he claims to be, of course, he would be voluntarily giving up, seeing how bad the optics look, and he'd be moving to Wood Farm or to Switzerland or wherever it is, palace in Abu Dhabi.
Well, we'll get onto that in a minute, but I'm wondering what you think. I mean, when you wrote your book, there were some people who were reticent to come forward and speak to you about Andrew and this whole saga, but whether they're supporters of Andrew or not now, do you think that people are maybe feeling a bit more relaxed or a bit more emboldened about telling the truth?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm getting 2 or 3 people a day coming forward, and quite senior people on his staff, for example, senior officials. I think people can see the way the story's going. I think perhaps maybe they're re-examining their conscience. They feel they want to be on the right side of history. And I'm also hearing stories of journalists who are getting tip-offs from, for example, the Cabinet Office. So clearly, I think the view is taken that Andrew is toast, he can be chucked under the bus, and this is the best way to protect the rest of them.
And I think also some people who may have been nervous about their own security or safety or reputation. I'm thinking about the Weinstein thing. It took one person to break their NDA and then there was an avalanche of people coming forward. It just gives other people more confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people were very scared. And I think also, I mean, I had a lot of stuff taken out of the book for legal reasons. For example, all the stuff on Peter Mandelson. Now, I'm hoping that the publishers will be a bit more robust for the paperback, and that stuff they now realise, and these people are a bit weaker in terms of taking any sort of action.
Oh, well, that's very teasing. Can't wait to read the paperback then. But you mentioned, you think Andrew's toast, but realistically, how far can a son of the Queen fall?
Well, I think in order to satisfy the public outrage, I think charges, and I'm not the only one saying this, charges may well be brought. I mean, I think he should be properly investigated this time. It wasn't the case before, both for the sexual trafficking, and that's a case for the Met, and also for his financial escapades for misconduct in public office, and that's something for the National Crime Agency as well. So I think public opinion wants some heads to roll on this, and I think it really would send out a signal that no one is above the law, including members of the royal family, that they are no longer going to protect him, and they want to clean out the stables. And I'm sure that's Prince William's view. And
I certainly think the public are just tired of the endless speculation. They just want to know what did or didn't happen.
Yes, well, I mean, that's been going on a long time. And of course, neither Andrew nor Sarah have made themselves available as a material witness to the law enforcement agencies, to the lawyers of the victims, or even ever made a proper statement about it. So you're absolutely right. They know exactly what went on. Sarah was staying there on a regular basis, actually more numbers for her in the Black Book than for Andrew. And there's no reason for them not to explain their position. And I think it would clear up a lot. And you know, the longer and longer they go on without cooperating, and indeed we've got to remember that Andrew deliberately refused to get involved with the Mutual Treaty of Assistance. He actually ran up to Balmoral to avoid the summons being served on him. This is not the signs of an innocent man, I'm afraid.
Do you think that the Metropolitan Police is more happier to investigate it?
I'm not sure they're happy because they don't really want to go there, but I think they're being forced by public opinion and I hope now by parliamentary pressure. I mean, what we're also seeing is a change in attitude among the MPs. I mean, even last week, I know there was a sort of three-line whip for MPs not to say anything critical of the royal family, but they were getting so much trouble from their constituents that a number of them were broken rank. And to have, for example, a Conservative shadow minister be saying some of the things that Jenrick has been saying, I think is quite a sea change.
That's so for those viewers abroad, that's Robert Jenrick, one of our MPs, Conservative MPs. Now, this week saw the re-emergence of a rather unfortunate photo, rather incriminating. It depicts Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell and Harvey Weinstein at what we now know was Royal Lodge, and now all three of those guests have been convicted of sex offences. I mean, what did you make of that?
Well, the picture's actually in my book. I have a whole tableau of people that...
Available at all good bookstores now.
Well, with pages of them with various sex offenders. So it's not new, but I agree, it is pretty telling. And it also seems this very extravagant sort of ball for Beatrice's 18th with a lot of their business associates. So they're using royal palaces for their own sort of business activities, and this is, I think, one of the criticisms. Buckingham Palace was used, entertaining bankers, so quite apart from Epstein and Weinstein, all these dodgy people going to what they call the hat trick, which was Balmoral, Sandringham and Windsor. We were getting all these business associates have been convicted gun runners. We're getting a lot of them going to Eugenie's wedding, for example, with huge security costs of that wedding paid for by the taxpayer. So I think people begin to think we've been taken for a ride here. They're just having a laugh.
Indeed. Well, for a long time, the only other pictures we've seen of Andrew have been on horseback around Windsor. I mean, what else is he doing? He's got nothing to do. But
he likes watching planes land.
I hear this.
And having massages to country music. So
okay,
he's a man of wide...
I would like to unknow that, thank you very much. But he has actually now been instructed to give up one of his last hobbies and not ride around Windsor.
Yes, I mean, the optics look bad. The other problem is that people don't want to ride with him.
Finally. So people did, right? And now they don't. Yeah.
So well, they were forced to. So I think we're probably not going to see even Andrew, you know, scowling from behind the wheel of his Range Rover either.
What, do we think he's still out there with the double entendre jokes and all of that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Great. So that means he's basically under house arrest at Royal Lodge.
Well, I mean, people do come and go I mean, we had people smuggled into Sunninghill, his and Sarah's home, in the boots of cars and on the floor of cars. He himself was often smuggled on the floor of cars to various places. So he may well be travelling. He's just not being seen, and they can just see how bad this looks.
Yeah.
They want him, I think, off the Windsor estate, which is why I don't think he's going to end up in Adelaide or Frogmore Cottage. They want him somewhere where the press are not going to report on him, somewhere nice and friendly like the Middle East.
Yeah, well, as I keep saying, we will get onto that because that's a whole other can of worms. Yeah. But Royal Lodge was the setting for what Barbara Davies, writing in the Mail, called a family summit, which she described as fraught, and said that the once strong York unit was fractured. And there was also reports that Sarah Ferguson had gone into a bit of a meltdown over his decision to give up his dukedom. Do you think that's true?
Well, I mean, she certainly got lots of airs and graces. She insisted on being called Her Grace or whatever. She loved being a duchess. I mean, she used that as part of a marketing ploy. I think she had Duchess biscuits. So the whole commercial side is going.
It's curious when we know that Meghan has been told not to use her royal status to hawk products.
Well, all she wants to do is flog a bit of jam, and Fergie's been doing it for 40 years and got away with it. So there's slightly double standards here.
Yeah.
But I think Sarah is very upset, and she's very upset to leave Royal Lodge. I mean, her whole raison d'etre and cachet came from being associated with Andrew being a royal, and that's clearly has been cut off from her.
But so what does it really mean in real terms, and I suppose in commercial terms, for Sarah Ferguson to lose that Duchess title. I mean, it kind of cuts off all her leverage, really, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, I think there'll be people in the Middle East and China that will still want to cozy up to her. I'm sure she'll find opportunities somehow to monetize her position, but clearly she's much more weakened and diminished. And you're absolutely right. I think that the family is fractured and has been for some time. I mean, I think it's very interesting that Beatrice, faced with the choice of going to be with her parents last Christmas or to the larger royal family at Sandringham, chose the latter. When I think most children would have rather loyally supported their parents.
Yeah.
We didn't see Eugenie turning up at this so-called summit. So I think that the famous tripod, which are the two girls and Sarah, is not as firm as it used to be.
It must be so horrible. Obviously, we love our fathers, but it's like, it must be so horrible to even suspect that might be a possibility, that your father's sort of like gleefully hanging around with a sex offender.
Yes, and taking part in orgies with young girls, and has broken short holidays with you in order to go and do this.
Gosh, well, obviously the rapid change in the mood here has seen Andrew, apparently for the first time, willing to maybe possibly discuss life after Royal Lodge. And there's been a lot written about this in the last few days, including the suggestion that you just referred to, that Andrew might move to Frogmore Cottage and Sarah would go to Adelaide Cottage, which is currently being lived in by William and Catherine until they move quite shortly. But you say you don't think that's true. So what's your understanding of where we are now? Well,
I don't think we know where we are now. That's certainly been floated as ideas. I think they're probably non-starters. I mean, the public mood has shown that's a non-starter.
I don't understand why we would be housing Sarah.
Well, exactly. I mean, if he wants to have her squatting as he has at Royal Lodge, that's up to him. She doesn't need a separate house, and that, I think, is coming from her. Adelaide is housing a complete family at the moment, so it doesn't need to just be there for one woman and her grandchildren. So I just think it's a crazy idea. I don't know how that story's got out. I think the royal family want them abroad. That's what they did with the Duke of Windsor.
Yeah.
But the question is, some of the cards are with the Yorks. I mean, it's very hard to throw them out of a Royal Lodge. And so they've got to be given something that will persuade them to go.
So what does it say about the relationship if the reports are true that Sarah is saying, well, then I want to live separately? What does that say about the current status of their relationship?
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, is she wanting to break the relationship because it's no longer helpful for her to be associated with Andrew and he could be damaging to her?
Or has it always been a bit of a separate entity?
Well, it's always been a separate entity.
Yeah.
They were sort of, shall we say, partners in business, and they would meet for tea and stuff, but there's going to be no romantic relationship there for a long, long time. So all the rumours and all their hints, are complete rubbish. But I think it's interesting, is it the royal family actually quite keen to separate them, which the Queen and Prince Philip were keen to do? They didn't feel that Andrew could move on in his life while Sarah was there. Or is it actually Sarah now thinking, well, I'm on my own now, I need to make arrangements. I mean, she's just sold a house for just under £4 million, so she's got some money.
So she's doing all right.
Yeah, I mean, her children both have Grace and Favour house flats at St James's and Kensington, plus their own multi-million-pound houses in the Cotswolds and Portugal.
And their husbands are, not short of a penny.
Exactly. So there are plenty of places for her to go.
Yeah.
So I think, this idea that somehow the taxpayer has to put her up, I think is not going down very well.
Yeah, quite.
There are houses also on the royal estates. I mean, Wood Farm, where Prince Philip lived for many years, is clearly a possibility. And there are houses elsewhere. Even if she isn't going to pay her house. She was given a lot of money on the divorce settlement, contrary to what she says, and that should have been enough to tide her over for the rest of her life.
Yes, rather than having to call Supreme Friend Geoffrey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, first friend was the Queen who bailed her out, and then she had the President of Kazakhstan, and then she had Geoffrey. So they all got fed up with her.
And what's this about? Some people speculating that the King might have to pay his brother to leave.
Well, as I said, there's the carrot and the stick, and the carrot would be to pay him off, pay him to not speak. I think it's going to be difficult to keep any royal secrets secret, because we never know how secrets emerge. There could be tip-offs to the press, there could be third-person journalists who write books, tipped off perhaps by Fergie, perhaps by Andrew. So I think it must be a worrying moment for the royals that some of their secrets are going to come out now. So
one option, obviously, we've mentioned on the table is that Andrew could move to the United Arab Emirates. Is that a possibility? I think it makes a lot of sense. He's been gifted a palace there. There would be no press scrutiny.
The climate's good. There's some golf courses. There will be a ready supply of women.
Oh, don't say that. Oh.
It could be a useful solution. I mean, whether Sarah Ferguson would accompany him. I think Switzerland is a strong possibility. I mean, they did have a chalet there. She was keen to move there as a tax exile. The children were going to go to school at Exile College. So, they used to go skiing there every year. So that would certainly make sense. They used to spend every summer in Spain. Again, great golf courses. That might be a possibility. They might want to look at countries without extradition treaties. That might be prudent.
Is that the UAE? I guess it is, isn't it?
I suspect that you'll be safe there. They wouldn't surrender you.
Well, I mean, Sarah Ferguson has the same struggles in life that I do with pale, freckly skin, so I can't imagine her wanting to spend a lot of time in the Middle East. But we have discussed exile on this programme before. Does that seem like a viable solution at this stage? Would we actually be using that word? Yes,
I mean, I think that's exactly what they wanted to do to Windsor, and I think that's what the royal family would like to happen. Whether they want to cut them, the Yorks themselves want to cut themselves off and be so far away, for example, from their daughters, is another question. But I mean, they're used to private jets. They do jet around the world quite happily. That shouldn't be too difficult.
It's kind of awful, isn't it, that even this supposed terrible, shameful punishment, he's still going to be living in this life of luxury. I think the British public's going to be, struggle with that.
Well, I mean, that's why I do hope that the investigations do take place into both of them, actually, not just him, and that if they have found to be broken the law, that charges are brought. There isn't the fudge as been in the past, and that they stand trial. And if they are found guilty, that they actually pay the penalty. They are accountable. I think that would send out a very strong signal that elites are not protected in this country. But also it would solve their accommodation questions. I mean, it would be at His Majesty's pleasure.
And as you mentioned before, we now have members of Parliament in this country getting, ever more vocal about wanting to scrutinise his activities and even discuss, for once, formally removing those titles.
Yes, I mean, it'd be very easy to remove the titles. I mean, we sorted out the abdication in a few hours. So letters patent by the King, parliamentary time, which the Liberals want, and I think would have widespread public support. Those things would be very, very easy for them to do.
It's hilarious, isn't it? Because last week we were discussing that, the palace saying, we wouldn't want to waste Parliament's time. But as you say, it's actually... It's not that big a deal.
It's not that big a deal, and I think it would be very popular. I mean, I think there's just this constant sense of the palace is trying to put brakes on this, is not addressing it. Protected him. Now they've been caught. They're still trying to protect him, and I think it would clear a lot of the air if some slightly more ruthless and decisive action was taken. Charles looks very weak at the moment, and that's not a good look. And the rest of them have been tarnished by this. And of course, what it's doing is raising questions now about what are the other royals paying for their leases on Crown Estate property?
Well, indeed, and just the whole theme of transparency, because the royals have always had the privilege of being above things like the freedom of information requests that apply to the rest of us. But Prince Andrew's case really makes that hard to justify, doesn't it?
It does. So we're seeing, for example, I think more pressure for parliamentary scrutiny. At the moment, under the rules of Parliament, which are known as Erskine May, parliamentarians can't ask questions about the royal family. And it's something I've been pushing for a long time through Lord Fuchs to do. And I think that would be good, asking questions. I'd like a parliamentary inquiry into his time as a trade envoy, to get all these ambassadors who, I have to say, enabled some of these activities, both financial and sexual, to actually speak on oath about what happened and to prevent this ever happening again.
Well, and now that Andrew's accommodation contract has been unredacted, as it were, do you think we might see more scrutiny of other royal living arrangements, and then will we start seeing people paying proper rents?
Yes, I hope so. I mean, I think, that didn't look good. The fact that they claimed to be open, and then when it came, it wasn't really very open. It was redacted. I think we've got to bear in mind that if you want to have a royal family, it needs a certain amount of pomp and circumstance, and they need to look, like they are living in grand palaces. And I think that's fine for working royals. So I don't, don't begrudge Prince Edward and Sophie having their Bagshot Park. I think where people are slightly more concerned is why Beatrice and Eugenie have accommodation in royal palaces when they're non-working royals. And I think if they are there, they should be paying the commercial rent. The other problem is, who do you put in these places? I mean, traditionally they've gone to former servants as a form of pension, and I think that's fine. If people are given a lifetime of service to the Crown, then they should be taken care of in their old age. But I don't think we should be paying for some of these royals who have basically cut loose, doing nothing in terms of public duty, and yet seem to get all the perks.
This whole can of worms, it really feels like probably one of the most dangerous times for the monarchy that we've seen in some time. It's really emboldening the anti-monarchists, isn't it?
Yes, and I think it's also, with people like me as monarchists, worried that this sort of behaviour is undermining support for the monarchy, undermining the good work all the rest of the royal family do, and as you say, helping the Republicans. And all of us who are monarchists want the monarchy to survive. But we want it to survive through respect and through trust, not through just complete deference and turning a blind eye to bad behaviour.
And if we just turning back to the sort of the living arrangements for a moment, are we going to start seeing a scenario where the king might have to start personally footing the bill for more and more members of his wider royal family?
Yes, I think that people would see that was only fair. I mean, I think people also want to look at royal finances.
Yes.
I mean, the Duchy of Lancaster and Duchess of Cornwall have huge sums. It's all very unclear. It's very opaque, shall we say, some of the tax arrangements, some of the finances. And I think people do want, a bit of a light and disinfectant on those. And royal gifts, there is a royal gift register, but I understand it's actually not fully complete. I understand a lot of royal gifts are actually sold when they shouldn't be.
Oh.
So I think we just want them to behave a bit better. We're not, in some funny banana republic.
Indeed. Well, let's just turn quickly to a couple of your comments now. Janelle wrote in praise of our Richard Kay's comments last week. Thank you for pointing out that the Duke of Kent was well regarded in the role of Special Representative for International Trade and Investment. Many people think incorrectly that the role was created for Andrew. And speaking of that, Margaret Alice writes, Prince Andrew's time as trade ambassador is now very much under scrutiny. There's no public info. It should have been documented, but there's nothing. Why? Well, we sort of touched on this, didn't we? And you looked into this, Andrew, didn't you? What's the story?
I did, yes. Well, I mean, Duke of Kent had been there since 1976. He was doing a very good job. I mean, the soft power of the monarchy can be very effective, particularly in the Middle East. And that was, could have been what happened with Andrew if he hadn't messed it up. But yeah, I think it is very important that these files from 2001 to 2011 are released. I mean, there are literally hundreds of thousands of them from the Foreign Office and Department of Trade. I've been trying to get access through FOI for 4 or 5 years now. They use every exemption possible to avoid releasing them. And you have to ask why.
But they haven't reckoned that you're not going away.
I'm still here after 4 years. They do. My middle name is Vexatious.
Any media students watching, tenacity is the name of the game for journalists. Well, this seems like a good time to remind you that Andrew wrote a book about Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. It's full of jaw-dropping detail, as I'm sure you can imagine, and you can order a copy by clicking the link in the description below. Well, let's go on to this suggestion from Jackie. Maybe Andrew should move to a cottage on the Balmoral estate. It's an option, but would he go for that?
I don't think he would, unfortunately, and I think all the Scots would rise up. I mean, they've also
exactly what would our Scottish friends have to say about
exactly.
that?
Well, there's devolution, maybe, But Castle of May has often been suggested. I mean, there's Cragowan Lodge, which is where he was staying, I think, in the summer, and is often used, and where I think he took Epstein. So there are plenty of houses on the estates where he could be tucked away and didn't need to bother the family if they were up there in Balmoral anyway.
Do you know what? I've been doing Palace Confidential for 5 years now. I wonder if I'll ever get to the point where I've heard the name of all the properties that they own. I kind of feel like I won't.
No, of course not. I'm not sure they know.
Endless.
And who knows what's offshore. I mean, there's stories of Andrew being given houses, for example, in the Bahamas, which I was trying to investigate. So there are plenty of places. Bahamas, a sunny place for shady people, might be quite good.
Yeah, I would love to go to the Bahamas, but if not, if I'm going to see Andrew. Quite the question from Metro Realty here, who asks, will Andrew go to jail? I've asked this before, but Andrew, is this a real possibility?
Well, I think we're on uncharted territory here. I think there is a strong possibility, and I think, as I say, in order to address public disquiet, that would be a very good way of killing this story. If no charges are brought, or charges are brought and everyone says nothing to see here, I think that the public will continue to press for wider and wider accountability. And I think the royal family, in order to kind of draw a line in the sand, I think are going to have to throw Andrew under the bus. And if that's the case, I think there are good grounds for him to be charged, convicted, and to go to prison.
Okay, well, you heard it here. Let's watch this space. This story will only develop. Well, we've got lots more to discuss on Prince Andrew, but we're going to turn away from him for just a moment to hear from one of our viewers in Eastern Europe. This is Daniela Deutsch. Hello, Daniela. Much greetings to the UK from Slovakia. I am watching the Daily Mail Royals channel for years and want to shout out to Richard Eden's socks. Always trendy, stylish, and a little rebelliant. Well, Richard Eden's on holiday, and I don't want to encourage him, to be honest with you.
I'm sorry, I'd rather let the side down here.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got a jaunty little stripe there, you're doing well. But he is on holiday, and I'm sure he'll be watching, and hopefully back in some fancy socks next week, so thank you for that. And we've been putting out more episodes of our new show, Royal Walks. The latest of these, where Rebecca and I get a private and really pretty spooky tour of Hampton Court Palace, will play straight after this if you missed it. Here was a nice comment from Ron Ehrlich on that. From Canada, this has to be one of my favourite Palace Confidential episodes. After all the hoopla of Andrew this week, there's a word you don't hear very often, is it?
No.
Hoopla. It was fun to have a good laugh and a bit of a history lesson. If I ever get to London, I want you two to be my guide to Royal London. It's a deal. We'll do it. Well done. Thank you very much. While Nini says, you have inspired me to visit London for the first time. Just booked my flight for mid-November. Thanks, ladies. Sending love from Memphis, Tennessee. Oh, I love that. I love that we've inspired a visit to Britain. We wish you a great time while you're here, and one day we'll try and put a live show on for you to all come to. That would be fun, wouldn't it? So please do keep those comments coming in. We love to hear them. Okay, let's get back to my guest now. Andrew, we understand, believe it or not, there could be more emails coming that show the correspondence between Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. What on earth could be in them that I don't need to know? What will you be looking for?
We don't know, but I mean, we've only seen part of the correspondence. I mean, there must be part of a longer email trail. We know the Senate Oversight Committee will be releasing materials shortly. I think other victims will come forward, emboldened by what's happening. I've got an updated paperback coming out next summer, which is already about 100 pages of new material. And
you've been let off the leash a bit more.
So, yeah, and so many more people have come forward with new stuff. And exactly, all the stuff that we cut before, I'm hoping we can now include. So lots more new names and lots more, I'm afraid, financial and sexual scandal around Andrew.
Well, you'd best come back and talk to us about it, please. Now, a comment from Emily Maitlis this week caught the ears of royal watchers when she discussed the rumour that Prince William had met the princesses Beatrice and Eugenie to encourage them to get their father to leave Royal Lodge. And he had even suggested that their titles could be under threat. Now, claims of any meeting have since been denied by William's camp, but what did you find out when you were researching your book about William's relationship with Uncle Andy?
Well, William's relationship with Uncle Andy is not good. I mean, on personal level, and I think because he can also see the reputational damage to the monarchy. So I think he does want to get a grip on this. I think he wants the stables clean when he gets there himself.
He must be furious.
Well, I think we could judge his feeling when we saw that rather po-face with the Duchess of Kent's funeral.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wants to get the whole thing in order, and I think he knows that the only pressure on Andrew is through the daughters. I mean, a lot of people have suggested to the daughters that perhaps giving up their titles, in fact, anyone who's not the direct line of succession, giving up their titles might be the mark of a slightly more modern, democratic European monarchy.
Well, it's one of the things that people like about Princess Anne's children, isn't it? That they sort of like seem to sort of forging their own way.
Exactly, and I think also the Edinburgh's the same thing. They've been allowed to make a decision when they reach 18, and I don't think they will. You know, and I think it's a pretty terrible job. I mean, the big problem is we've got the slimmed down monarchy. In the end, if it's just the direct line of succession, and let's say William comes to the throne quite soon, it's going to be literally him and and maybe Prince Edward supporting him. Princess Anne is now in her 70s. There are no young royals coming along. We don't have Harry and Meghan. Beatrice and Eugenie, I think, are damaged goods. So it's going to be quite tricky. And you know, the Prince of Wales' own family are still young, and if, let's say, even if he comes to the throne in 5 years' time, you know, they're still only going to be teenagers. Yeah. So it's a real problem, and I think this is why I suspect he wants to move to this modern European style monarchy, much more cycling, low-key, focused on pastoral care and good works, a little bit away from the pomp and ceremony. And I think we're going to have to get used to the fact that, not every supermarket can be opened by a royal.
Yeah.
And there's a role there for example, the Lord Lieutenants and the Deputy Lieutenants. So I think there's going to be, quite a lot of change.
It's interesting because Ingrid Seward telling the Mail, sort of like backs up what you were saying, that if the sisters were to give up their titles, it would give them the freedom to disassociate from their parents, at least in a professional sense, and stop them being tarred with the same brush, and be a clear sign that they want to make their own way in the world. But
Yep.
and it would give them respect, it would give them happiness. Do you feel that they want to do that?
Well, they've lived off the back of their parents for a long time. I mean, as I say, the daughters were on these trade-funded, taxpayer-funded trips. They picked up very useful contacts. Their jobs are actually basically on the back of their royal contacts. They are going to be reluctant, to sort of give away all those sort of perks that have come from their royal associations. But I think they probably see the wisdom of disassociating themselves. They've got their own charities, they've got their own careers and families. I think it would make a lot of sense to just break off, do their own thing quietly. I mean, we have the example of the Duchess of Kent, who broke away from the royal family but continued doing good works under the radar. And that's what they could do. They could actually make up for the sins of their parents through a lifetime of service. And not be seen to kind of be benefiting from these links.
This is one of the things that has always puzzled me about Andrew since this scandal came to light. We did hear that he was going to be undertaking charitable works in the background, and that just never happened. It would seem to me a very logical way to, look contrite, to have some atonement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we did have that moment in COVID where he kind of helped Sarah Ferguson with one of her charities bringing supplies.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you can come back from these situations by showing contrition, by, we think of several shamed television stars who've had pretty effective PR campaigns. Sarah herself has come back in the past from, selling access to Andrew and being caught on by the News of the World doing that. So, I mean, people, I think, are quite forgiving, but they've got you've got to feel that they genuinely are contrite and they do want to make amends for what they've done. And there's no sign of that, certainly with Andrew, and I suspect also with Sarah.
Yeah. There's
still this sense that we're of entitlement. It just keeps coming back to that word.
Will you have more on Sarah in your updated book?
Yes. I mean, I took a lot of stuff out of the book on both of them. I think people felt that the focus should be on Andrew and on Epstein. In fact, what a lot of people have said...
Well, they were buzzkills, weren't they?
Yes, and I mean, clearly there's a lot more material there, but no, we took a lot of stuff out on Sarah. She kind of overwhelmed it.
Right.
And there's almost a separate book that could be done on Sarah. People felt that actually she was a slightly more interesting character than Andrew. And she's a slightly more sympathetic character. I mean, there are a lot of good things you can say about her, and she's done a lot of good work. And this is what the tragedy is. I mean, for example, she's no longer a patron of the Teenage Cancer Trust, but she did terrific work for them over many years, and she does have this great natural empathy with people. And so this is a lost opportunity in the way that, Harry, we could see that with the way he engaged, particularly in Africa there. And that's all been lost. And I kind of wonder if if they'd been directed, if there'd been better supervision, if people had not turned a blind eye to a lot of their activities, we might be in a very different place with Sarah still doing good works and Harry still doing good works.
Well, before I get Andrew's thoughts on this, I wanted to run a couple more comments past him because this is something that our viewers have been discussing quite a bit, like this from Jan Williamson, who says, just wait, Andrew Lownie's new paperback is allegedly going to have more on the Princesses of York. Or this from Hannah, concerning Beatrice and Eugenie, let's wait for Andrew Lownie's paperback edition coming out. I hear that there will be additional information in it about the murky business ties of the daughters to their father's shenanigans. I fear they're more involved than we want them to be. Andrew, you're famous out there. I mean, what can you tell us about this?
Well, I mean, and I certainly see it in the comments, people are suspicious about the daughters' activities. I mean, they were very close to their father, very involved with Pitch at the Palace. I mean, would go out promoting it. Beatrice has recently been involved in promoting a Saudi bank. There are questions being asked about some of their charities, particularly Eugenie's Anti-Slavery Collective, which has been collecting money but not spending any money. Some of the questions that were asked about Sarah about the mix of her charitable and business activities and the demarcation lines are certainly something I've been looking at. I didn't include it. I didn't feel it was fair, perhaps, to go into that. But there is clearly, I think, a public interest in doing so. There's a lot of interest from the public as well. So yes, I think I will be looking at things. And I know that other journalists are beginning to look at some of these organisations, particularly things like the Youth Impact Council. Beatrice has made a lot of money very, very quickly from a start-up she was involved in. And so questions are being asked whether, for example, they're raising money to support their parents. And the monies, particularly their activities in the Middle East, are exciting quite a lot of concern.
That's intriguing. Do you think that we could see a scenario where they move to the Middle East as well and give up their titles?
Well, I think we can certainly see them giving up their titles. Whether they would move to the Middle East, I mean, at the moment, Jack Brooksbank's job takes Eugenie to Portugal. They have a house there. I think that's likely to continue for the moment. Beatrice's husband, Edo, is sort of international sort of designer, designing everything from jets to luxury homes. They've got this very nice house in the Cotswolds. I suspect they will want to stay there. I think if they go under the radar, if they're shown to be distancing themselves and doing good works, I think the British public will let them get on with their lives.
Interesting. Well, we're recording this on the eve of Halloween, and the ghoulish spectre of Prince Andrew has haunted this episode, and haunted it how. But in honour of All Hallows Eve, we thought we'd look into the archive to see how many pictures of the royals in fancy dress we could find. There were one or two we had to leave out, but we did find some fantastic ones for our montage, so enjoy these. Well, that was a lot of fun. Now, you, Andrew, know of another fancy dress picture that didn't make our cut today.
Yes, I don't know if you've got the It's a Royal Knockout, but that's the that's Sarah Ferguson in a Winch's outfit. But there's a famous episode, I think for one of the girls' birthdays, where they decided to have the theme of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And I think it was,
I know what you're going to say.
they hired real life dwarves to come. Beatrice commandeered the position of Snow White. And guess who came as Prince Charming?
Oh, don't. I'm going to be sick. Prince Andrew?
Indeed.
Oh, actually, it could have been worse. It could have been any one of his friends. It could have been worse.
It could have been Billy Connolly.
Oh my God. No, well, I was thinking Jeffrey Epstein or someone like
right,
that as Prince
true.
Charming. Disgusting. Well, oh my God. So I think is that picture in your book?
No, but maybe in the paperback.
Look forward to that one. Well, I certainly enjoyed chatting to Andrew today. I hope you've enjoyed this show. A reminder that if you would like to find out more about Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, Andrew Lownie's book is called Entitled, and we'll put a link for you to buy that in the description below. And if that montage has got you in the Halloween mood, do click here for the latest episode of Royal Walks as Rebecca and I get a private tour and a bit of a scare walking around Hampton Court Palace after dark. It was such fun to make, so I hope you enjoy it. Now, just time to say thank you to Andrew for your fascinating insights and to you at home for watching, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.